Harris County Board of Trustees would like to open up. First thing we'd like is Donald Mims to come and do an invocation. Time is 1:02.
Eternal Father, we thank you for this fellowship. We thank you for the board. We thank you for all of our constituents. We ask your blessings over this meeting, this fellowship. We ask that everyone is blessed. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. And Brandy Randolph, come do the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Much. Thank you. Right. The Board of Trustees of Harris County Department of Education now convened at a regular board meeting on Wednesday, May 15th in the boardroom at 6300 Irvington Boulevard, Texas at 103. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present at this board meeting of the trustees. As trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the decision for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the department are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on today's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting permitted by sections 55.071 to 55.1.084. inclusive of the Texas Government Code. I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking with others while others are speaking, and turn your cell phones to the off position or silent mode. Thank you for taking time this afternoon to join us for the interest in the Harris County Department of Education. Okay. We'll start our open forum, and first one up is Jerry Monroe.
My name is Gary Monroe, and I am a education advocate. All the stuff that you see happening in the Houston Independent School District, that's my work. All the stuff you see happening in Fort Bend ISD, that's my work. I wake up every morning with one mission: to get justice for those that don't get justice, to be a voice for those that don't have a voice. So what I've had to do is I've had to educate myself on a system that is so corrupt it turns my stomach, and it's called education. I watch people lose their careers, their jobs, because somebody doesn't like them. That's not how it's supposed to be. I had the opportunity to watch a video of you speaking in front of the Education Committee. I was very, very impressed, because a lot of the stuff that you were speaking about is exactly what I love and I believe in. You have an issue at one of your campuses. I sent each one of you an email, and those other school districts will tell you once I touch it, I've already done my homework. So now you have the opportunity to own your problem, or you can make your problem worse. That's totally up to you. I want you to look at me and say, I'm not going to take him serious. That's what they all thought. It cost them millions of dollars, and a whole bunch of people lost their jobs. How do you restrain a kid in one of your facilities? I'm confused by backdated paperwork. This is a state-issued document that should be filled out on the day that a red call is done, when you take the kid down to the mat. What I find strange is that you have one date on the front, and on the back you got another date 7 days later. How does that happen? You have board policy that you have to follow. I'm trying to figure out why board policy wasn't followed on the day that this restraint happened. There was no red call. There was no administrator that was sent to the room. There was no red call. So now I'm confused, because when you falsify a state document, that is at least a second-degree felony, a violation of the Texas TEA Board of Ethics codes. So who tried to coerce one of your employees to sign this document? Well, this one was dumb enough to do it, but my other client, she refused to sign the document. And then you remove the principal because of this supposedly restraint. But my first client, you sent them back to work and said that the restraint never happened. What you have here is a conspiracy by, once again, somebody in a position of power on a campus that decided today, I don't like this particular person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put everything together. What you also have is a violation of FERPA laws. How do you allow a law enforcement agency from another school district to come and question kids from a different school district? You can't do that. Then you force your employees on the campus to present their IDs, which in accordance with state law, I don't have to present my ID to that officer back there unless I violated a crime. So who forced them to do it? You got two people in charge of this campus. And the one thing that I respect about you guys is I ran for a board. A lot of days you don't have a clue what's going on them campuses because you delegate and you expect for these people to do their jobs. So my thing to you guys, I only got one piece of paper here, but I got a whole bunch of recordings that'll damage some people. So you have a non-renewal on your closed session item. I'm asking you that you table it. And I'm asking you to send somebody, call me on my number so that I can come in and present all of the evidence. And then the person who's being accused of doing wrong will fall right in line with my board president and say that I only want to not violate the law. I want kids to be serviced on my campus and not just put on my campus to make money off of them. See, the good old boy system with the money and the kids, it works perfect if you're the wrong person running a school campus. And then when you don't want to fall in line with the good old boy system, then all of a sudden you got a non-renewal. I don't know how much time I got. I don't want to go over. I don't want to be disrespectful. But when I ran for the board, the one thing that I said when I was campaigning.
That was time. That was time.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Thank
you
you
very much. You have a good day. Ms. Vera, Colleen Vera.
I want to thank that. My name is Colleen Vera. I'm a taxpayer and a retired teacher, and I want to thank that last gentleman for standing up for the students in your schools. But my question today is about the item for the Records Management Services annual report. I gave y'all a handout asking for some questions to be answered for the public during that report. One is, are the fees, the fee service that's calculated, is it like the schools where it's in county and out of county, or is it in county ISDs versus any other entity? Since you're subsidizing with tax money that was supposed to be for maintenance of public free schools, I'm really curious how your fee structure is set up. And number two, if there's a way that the public could get a list of who the clients are and what their contracts are worth, instead of having to do multiple open records requests and try to put it all together, if there's a list that's made for the board, if the public could also see that on your website or something. And number three, there was $229,435 of property tax subsidy, which is over $200,000 more than what you budgeted for. So very curious when the report is if when report being discussed, exactly what that money was used for and why it's $200,000 over budget this year. And the last is say that no other tax funds are being used, but if you could answer for the public, who actually paid for the buildings? Was it part of the Public Facilities Corporation bonds, those kinds of things? The office space, the management, is that subsidized also with tax money? The technology support, not for the day-to-day operations, but for the, not for the customers, but you know, when the people that are working, when they need technical support, is it our technology people paid with tax money that come and support them? The maintenance and repair of the buildings and those kinds of things. But the main thing is all those employees are in the teacher retirement system and TRS care, and what funds are used for their matching, and if the Texas taxpayers are paying for the rest of their lives for the employees and teacher retirement, but they're storing records for, you know, Fort Bend County courts, it doesn't seem quite right. So if you could explain all that during the annual report, it would be very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Kenny Kendrick.
Yes. Good afternoon, HCEDE Board and public servants. My name's Kenny Kendrick, and I'm here to speak against the agenda item to replace an education attorney for two partisan attorneys. I've done some research on each of you and noticed many of you are Christians and Republicans, much like myself. Some of you are even endorsed by Katy Christian Magazine and considered to be servant leaders from within your community. In the first century, follow me meant something. It doesn't have the same meaning today as it did in the first century. In the first century, follow me was a lifelong commitment, much like marriage. And when Jesus said to his disciples, follow me, he meant a lifelong commitment where they learned how to act like him, walk like him, eat like him, and spread the word of God like him. He told his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. You see, true discipleship or servant leadership always comes at a cost. Being a servant leader means we have to deny ourselves our wants and desires to lead as Jesus did. Jesus, of course, was no politician. Jesus did not make decisions based on values of each religion or political party in Israel. He did not reassign his disciple Matthew to a less public position due to his unpopularity as a tax collector. Finally, Jesus talks of things that were good and kind and those things that would bring a blessing. He did not bend his beliefs to be popular with the crowds or any political views. As I read this, I realize that many times we let our political agendas and self-desires get in the way of God's master plans for our lives and the desires of those we serve. As servant leaders, we are to serve others as we believe Jesus would have served them in setting our own wants and desires aside. I've read the Bible several times throughout my life, and not one time can I remember Jesus taking action against any organization that supports children. In fact, Jesus spoke very highly of children, so much as to say, let the children come to me, do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. Removing a law firm from Harris County Department of Ed that is considered to be an expert in the area of educational law based on politics is a travesty. It saddens me to watch the actions of this board and the stress and anxiety you're inflicting upon employees, community, and children you've been entrusted to take care of. Part of the board members' ethics policy, BBF local states, and I quote, "I will be continuously guided by what is best for all students of the department." Would you please explain to me how you are acting in the best interest of all students in the department when you write an agenda item to replace a well-known school attorney for two partisan law firms, one of which did not respond to the Harris County Department of Ed RFQ, and the other having no experience representing governmental entities? As servant leaders of Harris County Department of Ed, you're charged with selecting a professional service provider, or this law firm, based on demonstrated competence and qualifications is the first thing you have to look at when you are picking this. The secondary things are for a fair and reasonable price. Have you done the due diligence to compile any of that information on the two law firms that y'all have proposed? I don't understand why the board would replace a law firm.
Thank you,
That-
sir. Yeah, that's the time. Thank you. Did that come over the microphone?
Good afternoon, board. How are y'all today? I think that the previous speaker did a great job. He was explaining that there is a situation where there were several attorneys who were evaluated last year, and now that evaluation process has been completely dropped. So, one, it has become apparent that that evaluation was tainted. There were board members who colluded and gave biased, nonsensical scores to some of the people who were trying to get evaluated, and they gave zeros for experience for the current board attorney. You want to be transparent. You want to be ethical. I know this of most of you. So do the due diligence. Make sure that you're actually using an evaluation process that is ethical. That's all we're asking. Beyond that, please do not allow partisan political games to be played with our public education dollars. We want someone who is unbiased, experienced, and ready to come forward and do what's best for the children, not push biased political agendas. I think that you're capable of doing this. I know that most of you care to make this look transparent and ethical. So I want to see that happen. Please set aside this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby Cohen?
Good morning. My name is Bobby Cohen. I want to speak to the same agenda item. Realizing that hiring and firing is generally done in executive session for a reason, it still should be as unbiased and the process should still be as unbiased and transparent as possible. You're looking at two attorneys, again, as has been pointed out, with no education background. One of these is the former head of a political party, so much for unbiased, and the other has not been vetted at all, so much for transparency. The job of this person is to advise you in following the law. This is not a political appointment. This is an appointment of someone who is to keep you on the straight and narrow. So again, I would ask you to be unbiased and transparent, to table this, and to look for better choices.
Thank you. Jonathan Miller?
Hello, Board. My name is Jonathan Miller, and I'm here to talk about the same item, 7A. First, I would like to address that one of the trustees is not here again. This has been several meetings where Trustee Wolf walks out during public speaking. As someone who is censured and who is elected to be on this board, he should be here to speak to the people. It is unfair to us as taxpayers, as citizens, that utilize this board, that you have a trustee that's not here to actually listen when it's time to listen. But I'm sure as soon as we're done, he'll walk back in here. And once again, he needs to resign for his past actions and for not being accountable to the people. To go to action 7A, I first want to start with the definition of cronyism in case no one knows what it is. It's the appointment of friends and associates to positions of authority without proper regard to their qualifications. We have an amazing attorney right now that once again is unbiased, experienced, and trusted. This is not a political position. This is about keeping this board in line, making sure that we are following the laws, because if you haven't noticed, education keeps on getting attacked. We should probably make sure that the board is acting ethically so they don't get sued. Two of your people, one of them that you've suggested has been accused of colluding and cronyism with the juvenile district judges. How is that person even an option to be on this board? This is absurd, and we keep on bringing up this issue. If you're going to actually change, do it right, vet properly, and actually be accountable to the taxpayers. Don't be trying to pull this stuff over our eyes. We see what you're doing. Please do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tuo? Mrs. Tuo, sorry.
Hi, board and all the officers. Have a good day. And I was here for the last meeting, and I applaud you for applying the censor and to maintain the integrity of the board. And I'm disappointed that Mr. Wolf is here because I'm here to speak about agenda item 7A, which he proposed to replace your current attorney with two, according to my research, partisan replacements, which I don't think it's the right thing to do. I was very impressed with your current attorneys last time. She has been very professional, and looking at this board, she and Kimberly are the only two ladies on the board that I think my daughter can kind of identify with and look up to and be aspired to. I very much thank you both. So I would, let me state first before I forget that I would like you to strike this agenda item because this item is actually proposed by Mr. Wolf, and as a citizen and a parent, the optic just looks not in your favor at all if it happens. And then my second point is, which the other people have already expressed, which I like to stress, the job of the attorney is to make sure the board is following the laws and keeping a straight arrow so you don't get entangled in unnecessary violations unknowingly. So having a very professional, knowledgeable, and experienced attorney as your board attorney is vitally important, and it's also to the interest of the students and the staffs and everybody in the district. So please reconsider and please remove the agenda item. Thank you very much.
You, Mr. Joshi?
Good afternoon. I'm here to speak on agenda item 7A. I'd like to start with the Hush Blackwell group that apparently did not fill out an RFQ. I'm a small business owner. I apply for, service permits and jobs with the city all the time. And I'd like to think it's a fair process, that if you do the paperwork, you have a fair shot at, you know, trying to help your community out. And seeing a firm that didn't even bother to do that up for selection is, you know, it's kind of spitting in the face of the people, honestly. And it's not how a group that's given this much power should behave. It's not the transparency or ethics that the people deserve. And as to the second candidate, that he has a history of using people in positions of power, as he had with the juvenile court. He was in a group of 7 judges that got almost 4 or 5 times the number of cases, twice the number of cases as the public defenders in the juvenile court, got paid $500,000, and while at the same time was funding a PAC saying that we need to get rid of judges of the other party because they can't be trusted. He's a nakedly, openly political person that, I'm sorry if he's gotten to some of you, but it's not, once again, it's the people deserve something better. We have a attorney that the people seem to love, so I don't know why an action item is even on the agenda by someone who's been censured and is also not here. So I strongly push you to strike agenda item 7A. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Oliver.
Hello, trustees and officers. My name is Jason Oliver. I'm a Houston educator who runs a youth entrepreneurship program, a member of the Restorative Justice Collaborative of Houston, as well as the Houston Area Alliance of Black School Educators. I also serve as an advisory board member here at Harris County Department of Education for the Student, Teacher, and Officer Prevention, School Violence Prevention, and Mental Health Training Program Grant for the Center for Safe and Secure Schools. So I have quite a bit of experience both in education and then also here with HCDE. It's for this reason that I request that you table agenda item 7A indefinitely and keep your current board attendee due to her wealth of experience and the lack of experience that other firms that are listed in this agenda item have in representing a county department of education. We need a board attorney who is experienced, nonpartisan, and knowledgeable. To do otherwise would be irresponsible governance and poor stewardship of our tax dollars. For Harris County Department of Education to have the best representation, a board attorney must have education experience. They must be nonpartisan. That's incredibly important, and many people here have already spoken to that. And your process for evaluating and selecting your board attorney must be ethical. This, of course, also involves the RFQ. I'm asking that you all take a stand and do what is right and protect the HCDE employees and programs that are essential to the well-being of this county. Thank you.
David Brown.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Brown. I didn't prepare anything. I'm really just speaking from my heart right now. I don't have all the credentials. I'm just a man of the people, from the people. And I'm speaking on agenda item 7A. I don't think we should remove our attorney, especially if with partisan representatives. I truly believe if there is a need to replace the attorney, that it should be fair. The word I've been hearing a lot is transparency. Being servants of the people, it most definitely should be transparency. We want to know what's going on, and we want to be a part of what's going on. So if there is a need to replace the attorney, please let it be fair, equal, and a level playing field for everyone, so we can all have an opportunity to do what we feel is needed for Harris County, and especially the education of our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. T. Grant Malone.
Thank you to this board and to the administration. I am thankful to be here. I represent some 42 churches throughout Harris County, as well as the only church in this city Dr. King ever had the privilege of speaking at. Many of you I know and many of you I don't know. But it's important that we understand that when we come to settings like this, we talk about constructive criticism. But you cannot receive constructive criticism from people who've never constructed anything. I want to thank our superintendent and the administration for leading this district with integrity and with dignity. And I want to encourage you all to keep doing what you're doing. The main thing must always be the main thing, and the children are the main thing. Thank you.
Thank you. This ends our open forum. Our first agenda item. Well, let me get to it. Not right now. Let's get. We'll talk about it in a second. Okay. Okay. We need the annual update for the records management. Curtis Davis, Director of Records Management.
Good afternoon. I am Curtis Davis, Director of Records Management. Presenting the annual report on records management for you guys to listen to. You should have a copy of my presentation at your seat. Before I start, I'd like to introduce a couple of people I was able to bring with me today, because normally we're not able to bring any of the records management crew because of the amount of work that we have going on back at the division. But if the guys from records would stand, please. Let me introduce you to the operations manager, the person that's running the day-to-day operations, Mr. Anthony Washington. You guys have met Reverend Mims. Reverend Donald Mims, brought to us from the Head Start Division last year. So they were reluctant, in a way, to give him to us, but we got him. The Record Center Operations, Mr. Michael James, and Ms. Phyllis Gage from the Document Scanning Operations, all of which have been probably, other than Mr. Mims, in records for over 20 years each. Probably 25 for Phyllis. All right, thank you guys. All right, records. Keep pushing these buttons. Our mission, you have a copy of my presentation at your area. You are welcome to ask any questions at any time during this presentation. Our mission and goals and some of the things that we'll be talking about today. The who are we and who do we serve, our goals, the trends, challenges, and marketing efforts and future plans. Excuse me. I have to say that that picture of me is about a year old. I think I lost at least 4 pounds since then. Our mission is to provide a record solution for all of our customers, the districts that we serve, the governmental entities that we serve. One of the things that I have to tell you guys, we actually don't go out and solicit customers. They come to us and they ask for our services, probably more than a commercial entity would ask for service. They come in our world and ask for our services. And again, you know, who are we? This is our outfit. And if you look at the positions that we have, there's not a whole lot of positions in this org chart. Although we service at least 7 counties around the Harris County area, due to, of course, the demand of our services. You know, customers want us, so they come out and they solicit us. And again, I've been here for 17 years, and quite frankly, probably closed about 2 accounts. And everybody else came along board through word of mouth through different districts. Again, some of the areas that we serve throughout the counties, you know, we have 29 districts, 2 cities, universities, governmental entities, colleges, charter schools, and entire counties of business that we deal with. Some of the things that we do for our customers, some of our goals. We're conducting audit reports, annual audits of their data to make sure they're in compliance with the state retention, the state records retention goals. That's a pretty big deal in the state of Texas and all records retention. We'd like to become the subject matter experts on what we do for all of our county customers. We provide the first-rate customer service 24/7 through our web vision as well as our interactive telephone conversations that it's kind of old school nowadays because you get a recording every time you call some customer service person. We want to, of course, be the leader in the industry in what we do in retentions and compliance. One of the biggest things that people always ask is our cost, where our cost is not as much as a commercial world cost, as of course why people come to us. So we levy our costs. You know, our costs are so low that the districts can afford to come to us at the lower rate than they're trying to do it themselves and be able to do things in the district level. I mean, more teachers, more technology in the district levels by coming to us and getting a lower cost for their services that is provided. You know, that, and one of the things I'm pretty proud of, because I came from a commercial world where cost and profit was everything. There is no profit to be made in this solution. All right, some of Record Center pictures there, but the trends is we still grow our box storage. You know, we're doing a lot of imaging work, but the box storage is still growing. I mean, the basic business is putting a box on a shelf, and people put stuff in a box and put it on a shelf, and that's our basic business. That's what we do. We're of course removing old boxes from the system, as well as putting new boxes on the system. Training our customers in procurement every single day. We have web seminars and web trainings that we're doing. That was quick. That was that fast. I'm normally slow. Revenue trend, and just to say, Mr. Moore gave me some advice last year. He said that don't bite off too much because it could get a little dangerous for you. So we went back, evaluated what we were doing, looked at what our customers is needing and wanting, upgraded some equipment, got some newer technology in there, and the customers came along and said, okay, we need you to do more, but we are doing it now in an environment that is steady. We're not trying to bite off more than we can chew, and I appreciate that advice. Which is, of course, our challenging area. Our challenge is our scanning area. We're getting a lot of calls on digitalization of records on a daily basis, getting into normal records as well as large formatted records. So that's going to be something else you're going to give me advice on. All right, and some of our marketing efforts are going to the regular TASA, ARMOR meetings, doing presentations, and this is coming from our marketing division at Client Engagement. That's going to help us do a little bit more marketing out there for records. And the future plan, you guys see a large format scanner. That's the construction world. We're going to get into large format construction map scanning and we're going to present something to the school districts that is just going to be a wonderful thing for them to be able to see a school online through all the drawings of where every location is going to be in the school. So that's my story. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I have a few questions. You mentioned in your presentation here about staying competitive with the industry.
Yes, sir.
Who exactly are we competing with?
Well, every records management company in the world, because the pricing, we're about, what we do for our customers, we save about 30% of operating costs. If you were your own district and you went out to do it yourself, you'd have to hire a lot of people, vehicles, a building, get legal with the law. So we're saving them that cost. Well, in the commercial world, there's no savings. That's just a profit world.
Right.
That's a difference.
I understand. Are we serving any non-public entities?
No, sir.
Okay. So that is our criteria, only
that's our criteria
public
only.
entities. You mentioned 2 cities. I remembered on the tour seeing boxes that said City of Houston. So what's the other city?
Galveston, City of Galveston.
What about, you mentioned 7 government agencies?
The government agency, we have the Gulf Coast MHMRA, or Harris Center is one of them. We have, it's just so many, I can't remember all of them right off. But I'll get you a list. If you want a list of them, I will get you a list of them.
And the 2 counties?
The county is Harris County and Fort Bend County.
Okay. What about the colleges?
Texas Southern University is one of them. We have the San Jac. We have Lee College and San Jac College. We have Galveston College, First Community College, HCC, First Community College, my bank. Everything in education within this region pretty much is, within the Harris County region, is pretty much in our grasp.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Curtis, I want to say thank you for the job well done that you are doing there, and kudos to your group that works for you there. I have seen your operation, and it reminds me of the last scene of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And if you do find the Ark in there, I wish you'd let us know. But regardless, on a more serious note, I would like to see our superintendent really answer the questions that Ms. Vera brought before us, and that we continue to use less and less, or hopefully no taxpayers' money to run this organization. But other than that, I'm glad to see what you're doing and doing a good job at it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I did have a few questions, and Ms. Vera did make it a little easier to look at. We have Harris County tax revenues being used to supplement or your operation, correct?
I don't know how much tax revenue is being used, but
Year to date, it's 299,000. Based on the reports that I've got in my book.
okay. We got an answer.
Okay.
Yes, I need to follow up to explain that situation and that information, because this is a report that's an interim, and so for right now, his billing happens 10 days after the end of the month. So what you're looking at does not cover the month before. So there is revenue that is not booked yet. At the end of the year, because what you see in the projection as tax dollars, that's what we're gonna end up the year. So at the end of the year, it should balance the revenue with the expenditure. But during the year, you're gonna see ups and downs because the revenue is not constant. You're going to see the billing that's going to fluctuate between month to month. And so right
Yeah.
now, yes, as of that point in time, if you were to close everything out on that point in time, that would be the number, but you still have some accrual that you haven't billed for the next 2 months.
Right, with that, okay, so that 300,000 you're saying is just last month's,
It's 2 months.
2 months?
3 months.
So you're gonna have, so at the end in August, you should not see that number pretty much wiped out at the end of the year.
Okay, and last year we lost $20,000?
Roughly in that vicinity. Keep in mind that another figure that you have there, to look at that financial statement from revenue to expense, the expenditure includes encumbrances, which means you've already obligated things for the rest of the year, but you're only looking at a point in time. You haven't spent anything, but you're obligated, and we're including that in that other column. So when somebody looks at a revenue and expense, you need to take into account the fact that there's an obligation between now and August 31st. Now, if we want to do a cash flow projection, which means this is modified accrual of accounting, not cash flow of accounting, we can do that, but that would be against our accounting standards, doing cash flow accounting.
The budget here, we're showing a budget of 98,000 of tax revenues on the budget column for the year.
Projected.
That's for the year, right?
Projected.
So we are going to be using, it doesn't go to zero. We have $100,000 basically.
That's a projection, yes.
That we're going to be supplementing. The count that the Harris County Department of Education the tax revenue from the Harris County Department of Education is going to supplement this particular business to the tune of $100,000. Okay.
Basis, yes, that's correct.
That's in the budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what do Fort Bend County, the city of Houston, city of Galveston, and we don't even know what the other government agencies have to do with Harris County Department of Education?
Records management?
Yes, sir. Is that, I'm talking about the children, okay? How do we tell the taxpayer that we're going to spend $98,000 to supplement the cost, the 30% below cost that you just mentioned for outside agencies that have nothing to do with education?
Curtis, can you talk a little bit about the adjusted rates for out-of-county?
The in-county, well, the adjusted rates for out-of-county is a 5% increase rate than we would do an in-county rate. So the out-of-county customers are paying more. So their calculation is really not calculated into the tax equation, because they're paying more than the service dollars is paying for. If we did an overage of $98,000 a year, and by the way, that's just projected, if we do more services and get more invoices out, that can go to zero. It's checks and balances if you're doing more.
I think the thing that you need to emphasize is that in-county entities get the benefit of the tax rate,
Yes,
where
sir.
we subsidize their fees.
Yes.
Out-of-county entities pay an
Pay a
adjusted rate.
additional.
Dr. Mesqua?
The tax rate gets, the benefit of the tax rate is for ISDs in Harris County. Everybody else gets a out-of-county rate because they are not subsidized.
That includes the city of Houston?
City of Houston gets in-county rates, but they do not get subsidized. We don't subsidize, the subsidy is for the portion of the school districts only.
Okay, well, I heard that there was a 30% reduction in cost reduction to use our services. If you take 5% away from that.
ISDs.
ISDs?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're saying that the 25% adjustment to the other outside education, except City of Houston, doesn't get that adjustment because they're part of Harris County.
Right,
Right.
they're not.
But they don't have anything to do with education.
Right, but they don't get subsidized. Those contracts have to pay for themselves and be able to generate their own revenue. So the only portion that gets subsidized, only the school district portion for within Harris County.
So who does pay for the buildings?
The building, the maintenance of the building is a allocation based on a pro rata share of the amount that they're using. So that goes into that calculation in the expenditure portion.
Is that in this report here?
Yes, you will see it under contracted services or facility charges at the bottom. You see a facility charge cost line towards the bottom. There should be one under either contracted services.
Have capital outlay? Capital?
No, it's, it should be under contracted services. I don't believe it's broken out by facility charges. I'm not sure if it's that separated, but it is a facility charge that gets allocated once a month based on the cost and based on the square footage of the warehouse. They get their pro rata share of the cost.
So you're saying that the maintenance and repair of these buildings, the $166,000 for the year?
Let me look up the.
Yeah, I'm looking at contracted and professional services. Is this going to be part of your report?
No.
No,
This
okay.
is more detailed than the report, so I'm just gonna go to find the records management on our website and look up the page that you're referring to.
And Dr. Mesqua, I'm looking at our director for adult ed, who's pretty nervous that you just changed her website page.
Oh.
You need to make sure when you get done, you hit
Sorry.
the back button about 5 times.
So sorry.
'Cause you're messing up the next presentation. You should
I-
open up another tab.
Apologize for that. What page do you have at the bottom of your document?
49.
Well, it's not 49. It's under facilities? Yes. It's under F. Here it is.
Something we can do, like not, I mean, can't you just ask this information? Why are we wasting everyone's time on this?
Well, I think it's important that we sit there and we talk about the different, I mean, this is his report. This is the report from them. They're bringing, it's only once a year that we even discuss this. So
And
I
as
think
the
this is
board
a good time.
president, can't you just ask them about this information, or you gotta sit here and waste everyone's time going into detail and just nonsense?
Thank you,
It's
Trustee
a witch
Dick.
hunt.
Thank
This is a
you.
witch hunt.
I'm asking questions.
It's a witch hunt
Okay.
is what it is.
60% of the documents stored with us are for the city of Houston. Is that approximately right?
It's a little bit less than that, but it's a high number.
It's about 55, 53, 55%.
And they pay in-county rates?
In-county rates.
Okay, and then we are supplementing the city of Houston. If they're 60%, and I'm looking at this $100,000 that we budgeted, now we're supplementing the city of Houston for this 30% below cost thing? I'm very curious about this because it doesn't,
Right.
it's not adding up in my mind.
Well,
this.
the rates that are set are intended to be subsidized for the independent school districts only, the 25 districts in Harris County. Everybody else, their cost is not going to be subsidized. What you have here, and you mentioned about the facility costs, and I mentioned the facility cost, is under other operating costs, This 782,000 is the cost of the facility, the operations, maintenance, electricity, utilities, and so on. That's within that cost right there.
All the employees here do qualify for Texas teachers retirement, right? The teachers
Everybody
retirement?
in the Department of Education does. That is above 20 hours or more of working hours.
Technical support, does that run out of this office here? Or do they
Technical-
have their own technical support? How do they?
When the question that was referred to technical support is, all the divisions receive technical support from the technical divisions here in the building.
So that's additional expense that's not allocated on this particular sheet?
We don't allocate technological services to any division.
Okay, thank you very much.
One question. I'm a little bit confused about, you say that we don't subsidize the city of Houston, but then you say we charge them the same amount as the ISDs?
Their cost to operate that contract is within that revenue that we receive from them.
So then their rate is not the same as the ISDs that we're subsidizing?
It's less. The ISDs is less. Yeah.
I think you had confused us in saying
Sure.
that it was the same.
Dr. Mesqua, you need to get back to that home page you were at before. Hit that back button. You're gonna have a problem after this meeting if you don't do that. Yeah, go back.
We'll just move on. If you're done. So the next person up is Stephanie.
Hang on, Dr. Mesqua. Hang on.
Going back to school.
Stop. Ready to go. Top. I'm being told. Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, Superintendent Colbert and distinguished board members. My name is Stephanie Ross. I'm the Director of Adult Education, and I'm very happy to be here this afternoon. First, I'd like to recognize my team, the special people that I work with. A small group of them are here. We have over 275 employees, but I'd like for them to stand, please. Thank you all for supporting me, the mission of HCDE, adult education, and supporting our students. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I will not take up too much time by going through all these slides. You guys have the board report in front of you, but I would like to highlight some significant things that we've done, what we actually did last year. HCDE, along with 11 other service providers that are contracted with the Houston-Galveston Area Council, provide literacy and workforce development programs throughout Harris and Liberty counties. We are the largest service provider in the state of Texas. In the contract year of 2017-18, we had 45 class sites between 11 ISDs, 12 nonprofit or educational institutions, and 3 government agencies. Last year, we served over nearly 9,000 learners, and we had 626 classes. 75% of the students that we serve are seeking ESL support, and 25% are looking for GED certifications. Throughout the year, we engage and collaborate with employer partners. Last year, we worked with more than 20 employers. Some of the employers that we actually worked with that Key employers were the City of Houston, S&B Engineering, Merrick Brothers, and Rich Products. And in those partnerships, we've been able to leverage about $2.5 million, which is it helps us to extend our services a great deal because we were only given $4.2 million. HCDE continues to lead the state as well as the consortium by exceeding our academic targets. Again, I'd like to recognize some of my staff that have done an outstanding job by receiving the You Make a Difference Award. Bridget Bentley, Karis Wyan, Denise Johnson, Harriet Hubaker, sorry Harriet if you're here, Vicky Sanchez, and Elizabeth Sanchez. Last year, compared to the year before, we were able to extend the number of professional development hours by 20%. We increased enrollment 12%, and what is really a significant improvement is that we increased the number of enrollment in workforce development courses. We were also able to provide student services, which consist of career development, by 10%, all while having a reduction in funding of $200,000. So looking forward to today, where we are today. So this year we have put a great significance and focus on the workforce development programs, which are certificate programs, and that is meeting the demands of the community. We have certified nursing assistant program, core construction, pipe fitting, customer service marketing representatives, medical assistant prep, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, and workforce literacy. And that is 100% change over last year. So we're really excited to be able to offer those services. Questions?
I want to say thank you all in the great work you're doing, and to see that you're constantly exceeding expectations in the proficiency of the adults that are taking your courses. And especially I want to say thank you for the strategic initiatives that you're doing in meeting the community needs, because that is a area that we certainly need some skilled labor force in that area. When I look at pipe fitters and when I look at medical assistants and all those, and you're educating them, I just want to say thank you and keep up that good work. And I come from a construction background, and I know how important and how well they can make a great living if they develop that type of skill.
Yes,
so again,
sir.
thank you.
You're very welcome. One of the things I neglected to do, because I was thrown off slightly, was to show you all this very important video. I really took a lot of thought in finding this video on YouTube, and I want you all to see it because it shows the importance of what and why we do what we do. If you don't mind, may I show it? Thank you.
Going back to school to get my GED was always important to me because I was a dropout at a young age, and not because I didn't want to go to school. It's just the circumstances and the type of people I was surrounded by. So I just wanted to be the best I can be. Staying, I guess, would be the biggest obstacle because anything can cross your path where you want to stop doing what you're doing right then, and you forget why you're doing it and why it's so important. But until you get it done, you can't do other things. My teacher, Miss Coleman, is the best teacher I've ever had. She really worked with everyone. She pressed me as far as staying and, you know, doing what I wanted. And what I wanted was important to her, which is not important to everybody. And to know that I had the support system that I've always needed and wanted, I love her to death. Well, I have 3 children. I have a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And it's important for them because I get to be a better mommy. I get to be there they get to see me happy and doing what, you know, what I can do best as far as not giving up and not letting people get in the way of what I have to do because it's important to me, because it's important to them. In May of 2016, my daughter got really sick. She almost died on me, and we spent 2 months in the hospital. It's my youngest child. She's 2 now. She just made it to her 2nd birthday. When she was born with a tethered cord. So she had surgery when she was 8 months. But when she turned 15 months, she got diagnosed with meningitis. And it's a deadly disease. I wasn't getting anywhere. So I slowed down, I got into school. Many days I didn't want to show up. Many days I was just, you know, I'm not for it. But I knew it was gonna be a big change. It feels good. It really does feel good to have people treat you the way you deserve to be treated. I'm 27 and it's just the beginning. I know I'm gonna make all 3 of my kids very proud of me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just real quick, where y'all have certifications? Do you give them certificates and things like
yes,
that?
we have state and national certificate programs.
Okay, and those and we provide the classrooms for those things?
Yes, sir. We
Okay.
provide the instruction, the classroom settings, and the actual exam.
Okay, so y'all prepare them for the exam, and then the exam is or you get a certificate from the exam from the external entity?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Great. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Ross?
Yes.
Just want to thank you for the work you do and to all of your employees. This is a great video, by the way. It kind of touched some heartstrings with me because I have worked as a GED teacher, and I know the difference education can make in a person's life. The son of a Mexican immigrant who had a 6th grade education and had very limited work options because of his lack of education, spoke broken English, but somehow he was able to still come and seek the American dream and give a better life to all 8 of us kids here in the U.S. And so I just want to thank you for your report and commend you for the great work you and your staff do, and I encourage you to do more. Reach out to schools and churches and companies and find places to help host your classes. I know I've talked to several pastors that are interested in working with our agency to offer adult ed, to open up a Head Start center. But adult ed is something that I'm really passionate about. I think it can turn people's lives around. And then I encourage you, and I'm assuming we have partnerships with like HCC and Lone Star and U of H downtown. I encourage you to strengthen those partnerships. Anything we can do here from the board's part to support you, we're behind you 100%. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story.
So much. Next would be our superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just as a transition from Ms. Ross, we actually have our graduation ceremony this Saturday at 11 o'clock. It's in our 500s hall, one of the really cool events to go to. How many graduates do we have this year?
65.
So we got 65 graduating, but there'll probably be 3,000 people on the 5th floor, so just be ready. I always take the stairs back to the car because the elevator is packed. I have 3 items I'd like to update the board with. The first, you will find at your cubby this magazine, or actually newspaper, which are these community impact newspapers that are spread out throughout the state of Texas. If you turn to page 4, last month we showed you our awareness campaign, but this is the first ad that we've had in one of these magazines, and I'm sure there's more to come. This is the Heights edition, and I believe there's like 10 of these throughout the county, which are great magazines. So keep your eye on that, and make sure you see Godzilla when that comes out, because go to New Caney to do it though, so you can see our commercial. So look forward to that. Second item, you have this also at your cubby. This is a flyer to a ribbon cutting ceremony at our Early Head Start program, our building that we're opening up next week in Baytown. That will be on May 25th or May 23rd at 12:30, and I truly would love to have as many board members there as possible. I don't know what officials from Baytown may show up, but it's always great to have a board presence there, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that building looks like. And finally, on Monday, we had our second annual Teacher of the Year program. This is an initiative that was actually started by Dr. Mays, and it has grown to Teacher and TA of the Year. Now, I didn't make it far to my car before I started hearing about Adult Ed Teacher of the Year, and I started hearing about, Special Ed Therapy Services of the Year. So it may grow into something bigger. But we had six candidates altogether. Was it 6 or 4 per campus? 4 first schools, 4 teachers, and 4 TAs. And I believe Mr. Cantu got to participate on the committee that actually went through the materials. But folks, this is powerful. We have a tremendous staff that I'm extremely proud of, and anybody that works with our special needs population should be commended. I'm a former special ed teacher. I'm certified in special ed. There's not a long line of people lining up to work with special needs students. But these were 4 employees that stood out from the rest and ultimately put pen to paper and applied to try to be the Teacher of the Year and went through the rigors of that. Today, we are happy to have our winners of that. And I'm going to call out your names, and then I would ask the board to get up so we could take a photo, because I know they've been waiting some time to get their photo. But I'm first going to call up Byron Clay, if you please stand. He's our TA of the Year. No, he's a fellow track and field athlete. He's done much better with his weight management than I have. I need some tips on that. And then for our Teacher of the Year, Zachary Wilkstrom. And I'm saying that right with Fortis Academy. Wilkstrom. So I would ask the board if we could please go.
Right there, and if you back, I want you right there, with the guys right next to you. There you go. Okay. All right, come up and fill in. Yeah, slide over a little bit. Mr. Flynn, come up. No, he's good. Mr. Mays, you always hide in the back. Why don't you come over? There you go. You're good. Mr. Wolf, there you go. Perfect. Okay, Mr. Dick, if you move over just a little bit, and Mr. Moten. Perfect. All right, everybody, this way. All right, nice big smiles. 1, 2, 3. Hold on. Here we go. Stay with me. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
That's all I have.
Thank you for that report. And moving on, no feasibility report. Any other board members have any reports that they want to bring up? Okay. We'll just move on to the monthly financials. Dr. Jesus Amezcua.
The first report is the financial highlights as of April 30th. We review the budget amendments and the financial statements. All our information is posted on our website. The balance sheet as of April 30th, we have total assets, $45,909,235, liabilities of $1,807,100, an equity of $43,899,845, and some appropriations of fund balance of $212,290. This is an estimated fund balance as of April 30th. As we move forward, we roll forward the information, and so if you see this number here, 14 million in the middle, that's the excess as of a point in time, more revenues than expenditures as at that point in time. Doesn't mean that we made additional $14 million in fund balance. It just means that as of that point in time, we have brought in more revenue than expenditures as of that point in time. Some of that expenditure will, of course, will get spent for the rest of the year. Our ratios for fund balance to expenditure ratio were at 56%. Last year at the same time, we were at 51%. Working capital ratio at 44% versus 39%. Unassigned fund balance ratio, 40%. Debt to income ratio, 6%, 7% from last year. Tax revenue to total revenue, we're at 30% versus last year at the same time, 33%. Indirect cost to tax ratio, we're at 2%. A fee for service ratio, 22%, a little bit less than last year at the same time, 23%. Our growth is actually improved at 6% versus minus 5% last year due to the Harvey event. Our fund balance activity, you will see the summary of all the amendments that we've had during the early months. Revenues to expense as of April 30th, this is the 8th month of the year, or 60% of the year's lapsed. We have received or recognized 87% of our revenue in the general fund. And then you see all the different ratios there. Overall, are 70% on budget to actual. In the revenue to all the amendments, as we go through, amend the revenues and the expense, so we keep a running total of all the amendments. On the expenditure side, as I mentioned, 67% of our expenditures, we should be in the 67%. We're actually only at 57% in the general fund. Overall, we're at 50% as well. Keep in mind on the special revenue funds, which are our grants right here, 38,310,000 versus 18 million. It's always going to run behind 1 month because we have to spend the money first and then drawing down the following month. So it's always going to be lagging for at least 1 month because of the drawdown. All the grants are on a reimbursement basis, which means you have to spend the money first and they get reimbursed a month later. Our donations report is year to date 52,112. That's 7,178 in cash, 44,934 in in-kind, and a total of 52,112. And that includes donations to Head Start, Early Winter Conference. So those are the two major divisions that get donated. Right now, for our values, we're at 447 billion, and we still have about $1 billion left for to be certified. Hopefully, between now and August, we'll end up at 449 billion. Notice that there's 3 numbers here on the top, on the right side. So our budget that we're building, and we're going to send and present the budget to you, we had estimated a 3% increase, or a 4.61 billion in values. That's sort of like, you know, when you're looking at in early December and January and looking at the projections moving forward, I'm thinking that it was going to be about 461 billion. We received a letter from the appraisal district, an estimated number of 477 billion, and so we will be reviewing that during the budget meetings as we start moving forward in the budget workshops. Right now, the scenario for appraised value, we're at 447 billion in the certified roll from the appraisal district. Year-to-date taxes that we've collected are 22,635,594, or 97% of our budget. We still have 674,000 to collect between now and August in order to meet the revenue. Notice that we include a delinquent collection of 150,000. In fact, there have been some refunds, so therefore we're probably not going to make this 150. In essence, it's a negative 54,000. So we need to take that into account next time around, because this is we put some monies for delinquent and it's not coming in because there's been some refunds that have been affected by the tax office. We have values paid to the appraisal district and also to the tax office for collection, and that totals to 585,606 for as of April 30th. Our disbursements for the month are 3,900,079, 791 checks, 508 transactions, and 6 transfers. And the detail on the registers are posted on the website, and also you have them included in your report. This is a segment information, and we pick out at least some of the major divisions. And one of the first ones is educational certification. It's 253,000 that a lot of the revenue will come in during the summer and some of the other programs. Records management right now, it's at minus 385,000. Again, the records manager billed the month after the closeout due to the agenda deadline, so we have to close out the month in order to prepare financial statements. Therefore, not all the revenue is included on there. So once you'll see that on the 12-month, you will see all the revenue that's come in, but it'll catch up. Right now, it's just a monthly cycle. You also look at, it includes encumbrances. So for example, let's say that we have a contract with temporary staff at records management that we're going to contract for temporary staff to come in and do some training, or some of the operations. Well, we include the entire contract in that number between now and August. That doesn't mean that we're going to utilize it. It also, a lot of the revenue hasn't been built in yet. So it is a timing that you will see that impact on the financial statement. And then, of course, the last one is Choice Partners, which is doing well at 4.7 million at a 76% ratio. Typically, you will see this one on a 45% ratio, and it's right now 2.7 million above the value that we have projected for the year. In terms of our budget amendments for the general fund, we have one for 648,000 and one for special revenues for 580,000. The first one is 648,000. We're going to receive additional revenues from AB West and AB East for summer revenues, for summer school. And so that's going to bring in additional 648,000 for those schools. And so that's augmenting our revenue projection for those two divisions. In fact, you're going to have some expenses there, but not. It's going to be more, and so basically that reduces the profit or the sustainability ratio for those two schools. The next one, we got a couple new grants for teaching and learning, 28,972 and 2,500. And then we have some adjustments to our NOGA because of an overlap in fiscal years. Our adult debt program that you heard a few minutes ago doesn't start September 1, it starts on July 1. So it goes over 2 years or 2 fiscal periods. So for the first two months, we have to spend it, and then we have to adjust in the new year how much we need to adjust for those expenditures for the first 2 months. So once we get the NOGA, we adjust it downward so that we can stay within the grant allotment for the adult ed grant. Yes, sir.
Is that big reduction in the state's grant going to affect our adult ed program?
I don't believe so. I'm going to ask Ms. Ross to address that.
No, it did not. What I actually reported on today was last year. This year, we actually had an increase of about $300,000. This year, 2018, 2019.
A budget amendment, so that should mean that we had anticipated more than we actually got.
This budget amendment is because of the expenditure of overlap between July and August 31st. It's not because of a drop in the funding.
So your explanation in the book is confusing?
Maybe, but it is basically an overlap in the adjustments on the fiscal years. It's not a reduction in the grant. It is a reduction in that fact that we've already spent some of those funds already. AB West, so April 30th. Some of these slides are basically the same from its inception. We have year-to-date 1 million. Let me go to the next one because this is kind of small. The total commitments is even smaller. I would try to break that down into two other slides, but 1,856,000 are the expenditures year-to-date. And available, we have 10,526,461 still in cash, basically to fund the project. And so we have committed of 10,862,000, 1,000,008 payments, and so we have obligated 9,006,431, and a contingency of $1,520,030 available there. As you know, interest rates continue to go up, and so our interest that we've earned is so far $350,000, out of which $317,000 is within the 1.68, and anything above that, which is the column on the right, this $32,000, we're going to put it as restricted because eventually we're going to have to pay it to the IRS because that's above, we're earning above the rate on the bond. So that's going to become restricted on our financial statements. One of the things that we need to set up is a PFC meeting update because we need to change the contract on the date of substantial completion. If you recall, the permit was not received until later, and therefore the date of delivery of substantial completion needs to be amended. So we'll call in for a PFC meeting probably next month before the board meeting. Questions on the financial report so far? Okay, on the next report is the investments. As I mentioned earlier, all our policies are certified and they're posted on our website. Our report as well, and we have $54,678,000 in investments. The PFC is $10,526,462. And so all those are pretty much in Techstar, TexPool, Chase, and Lone Star Investment Pool, a combination of all those factors or investment locations. The PFC funds are at the TexPool, 99% of that, and 1% at Bank of Texas. When you look at our investment portfolio from a year ago, we're 15% higher than a year ago at $54,678,139. Pretty much all our funds are overnight, so $44,151,677 of our HCD portfolio is pretty much overnight, and we can call it in any time. And so as interest rates go up, we continue to increase our interest earnings. So year to date, we've earned $463,418, and in the PFC, $141,632. We're earning approximately 2.3885%, and the yield average is about 241 in the pools. Here you can see the progression of how interest rates have gone up. It's gone up about 5 to 10 basis points higher. I venture to say that this number is going to jump about 20 to 30 basis points here next month because of the changes in the tariffs. So what that does is there's a migration into safety, so you're going to see a lot of more rates in bonds going up rather than stocks. So you'll see some rates here impact moving forward in the next 2 or 3 months. Questions on the information, and would you like any for me to address any of the questions from the letter. No.
So no one has any more questions about the letter? All the answers have been done about the letter?
You ready? You got a question?
Have any question?
Okay.
I just saw this letter. I thought people wanted to ask questions.
You ready? The consensus items.
Move it on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Does anybody have any consensus item that they wanted to pull or discuss? Is that a motion? Okay. Without objection, we're going to wait for Dr. Moore. Thank you. The item on the table right now is the consensus item. Did you have anything that you needed to
No.
pull out? Okay. Moving on. The agenda items as said. Any objection? Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? No. 7-0. Now we go to the action item non-consensus. Item A, consideration and possible vote on hiring Mike Stafford of Hush Blackwell LLP and/or Gary Pollan of Pollan and Associates PC. Do I have a motion? Hearing none, action item dies for lack of a motion. The agenda is consider approval of budget items for CASE for kids to pay for travel expenses of non-employee per the CASE debate project. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Cantu, second by Norris.
Other way.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Consideration, acceptance of notice of award, NOA. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
That motion? You got it? Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Seven. Consider approval to submit carryover funds request to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Head Start. Do I have a motion? Motion by Trustee Cantu.
Second.
Second by Trustee Norris. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Item E, consider approval of a 2.197 million request to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services office, and this is a continuing funding. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Trustee Cantu?
Second.
And second by Norris. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? 7-0. Item F, consider approval of service contract between Teaching and Learning Center and WRM Development. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Norris?
Second.
Second by either or. Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to, not sure which division is requesting this contract. Got it.
Yes, sir. It's the Teaching and Learning Center.
The way I see it is, there's an amount of $225 that we're paying the contractor, and then he's gonna
Yes, sir.
bill, I guess, the conference attendees and make up to $22,000 in profit.
Correct. We'll have 20,000 in profit, the Teaching and Learning Center.
Oh, it comes to us?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that was built in for the contractor. That was my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
There are some expenses involved beyond the, what we pay the speakers, though.
So the only expenses would be basically is to use the facility and also to pay the speakers to come in and work with us.
So you're not serving any meals or anything?
Yes, sir, we are serving meals.
So that's an expense.
It is an expense, but it's not included in this. The participants will purchase their own meals. But we won't purchase it.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Item G, consider approval to submit a carryover fund request to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Head Start. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Item H, contract amendment with Littler Medelson PC to increase contract by $13,000, total amount $62,000. Do I have a motion? I'll make that motion.
Second.
Can we hear a discussion?
Discussion, please.
I'd like to, some legal discussion in executive council on this item, so I'd like to postpone it until after that.
Okay, do you have a second? Second. And a second to postpone. Any discussion with regard to postponement? Okay, all in favor of postponing? To executive session, excuse me. Six.
I'm abstaining.
Item I, consider approval of the following new positions projected in fiscal year 1920 budget.
Can I explain what that is?
Let's see if we get a motion first.
So move.
Second.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Typically, what we do is we're asking for approval on positions that we haven't hired for. These are positions that are going to be built into next year's budget. But unfortunately, the budget won't get approved till July. And if we wait till July to try to hire these folks, it's kind of like the NFL draft, and we got 5 picks, but we show up on the 3rd day to use them. You know, many of the good educators are gone. And so in the past, this board has supported administration in this and have approved this. And then based on whatever budget we approve, the tax rate, we make whatever adjustments we need to. But in the field of public education throughout the United States, it is a feeding frenzy of hiring right now. It's hyper competitive, especially in Harris County. School districts won't divulge what they're doing in raises for teachers because they don't want you to be the highest paying district versus them. They will compete for principals, they will compete for teachers. They are trying to, my principals cannot go on vacation till they fill all their positions, Dr. Keys, Mr. Cooksies, because the last thing you want to do is wait till July and hire a person who's done 7 interviews and every one of those districts have passed them up. When the good teachers do 2 interviews and get 2 job offers, and they get hired on the spot. So I would ask for support in passing and approving these positions so we can move forward with posting them, and we can stay agile and try to find the absolute best people we can find to fill these vacancies. Dr. Mesqua.
All the positions are budget neutral, which means that there will be fees associated with those positions, and so that they're covered. And there's a couple of those that are also consultants right now, where we have temporary employees, so we're converting to and so it'll cost us less by having an internal than individual rather than a temporary agency that's charging us a premium above the cost of that position.
Is that the help desk folks?
Yes.
Okay, my question has to do with the budget. We're talking about now the 19-20 budget year. I understand that y'all are going through the budget process right now. And are y'all assuming a tax rate that we're gonna approve?
That will be during the presentation when we'll have our budget workshop. It's projected for June the 12th, I believe it's the first one.
And is that an assumed tax rate, or do we get any say whatsoever?
We'll have to assume a tax rate at that point in time, projecting based on values. And based on what the values are, we'll need to submit a projection based on what that is. And then at that time, because we won't know the last values until a little bit after almost the end of August.
Yeah.
So how difficult would it be for us as a board of trustees who's responsible for that to make any kind of adjustments to the tax rate if y'all have already gone through the whole budget process before y'all even bring it to us?
Just real quick, the process that we use is we go through every single division and have budget meetings. I think we did 20-something of them in 2 weeks. We look at their recommendations, we look at the performances of those divisions, and then we ultimately try to put together a skeleton to present to the board. We'll sit down with the board, we'll do this based on what we think the tax rates are looking like, what we would ultimately propose. The board can make recommendations and say, I don't like this, I'd like for y'all to go back and work on this or do that, the other, and then we'll have another budget meeting to look at the revisions of the board, of the budget, because we're gonna continuously try to polish a budget to present to y'all that can be passed. The weird thing about this organization that I don't typically care for, that is not normal, is that the board has to approve a budget prior to approving the tax rate. So the board will ultimately approve a budget in July, but then could approve a tax rate that doesn't support the budget, which would put us in a deficit budget model.
And that's exactly my question. We're actually adding to the budget without us even being able to address the tax question. So if we sit there and we add this, we're saying that we want to increase the budget, even though it's budget neutral, the whole budget is still going to go up. And we don't have any say. I mean, that is our responsibility.
Sure. For these positions, it is budget neutral, that you're not gonna see added costs associated with these, because we have built in the revenue source from the school districts to pay for them. They've already built in. At that time, and typically the last 5 years has been a lower rate, and so in looking at that trend, it's looking like it will be a lower rate than the nominal rate. Going forward.
Are you saying with these positions that we are not going to leverage the tax rate for these? These are all going to be revenue neutral?
Yes.
Without affecting the tax rate?
Right.
Okay, so when we come back and we say that we added 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9,
Yes.
10 position, whatever.
The revenue side, we make sure that there was enough revenue there to add this expense. So we had to balance the budget. Can't present to you an unbalanced budget.
I understand that.
So The
Well, I
only-
mean, but you don't even know what the tax rate is gonna be.
Well,
I mean,
I-
theoretically, we could sit there and say, we want 10% tax on this, whatever max we can. Or the converse of that is, we wanna say 0. And we don't have anywhere in between there. It's either your rate that you give us, or there's a budget problem, we gotta start all over. And that's my confusion, is that we're gonna add more, and you're saying it's budget neutral, but we don't know what the tax rate's gonna be.
Well, we'll have to make an assumption of the values, and then the collections, and then the tax rate. And you're right in that sense, that in order for a budget to be presented, I have to make an adjustment, an assumption rather, of what those would be. And they are estimates, they're not in concrete, because it is a moving target. It's still 3 to 4 months before I get the final values, whatever those values happen to be.
Go ahead, Trustee.
I just want to, I guess, clear up some confusion about this. Almost every government has this exact same problem, that they have to approve their budget prior to setting the tax rate, which is set later on. We've never had any problem here as long as I've been associated with the department in adjusting the tax rate to the amount that was needed based on the budget.
What's different between us and say a school district is that they adopt the budget and the tax rate at the same time. Local governments like the city and the county, there's a little bit of a lag in between. They don't adopt it on the same day. There's maybe a month apart. And that's where we fall in. We're usually about 2 months in between.
And, Mr. President, doesn't the tax rate only affect like a third of our overall budget?
It's about 22%, you saw in the slide, 22%.
Quarter of it.
Just to be clear, I'll be voting against this because I don't know what the budget's gonna be. I don't know what the tax rate's gonna be. This budget neutral thing is one thing, but we could easily just call for a hiring freeze, and then these wouldn't be affected at the budget meeting whenever we do the budget. So I'll be voting against this just because I'm not clear.
Sure.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Item J, consider election of President and Vice President of HCDE Board of Trustees.
I'd like to make a motion to re-elect Josh Flynn as president of the department.
Second.
Are there any other nominees?
I nominate Eric Dick.
Second.
How do you want to do this? Yeah.
According to Robert's Rules of Order, the vote is taken in order of the nominations. And so the first vote would be, since Mr. Sumner's made his nomination first, his motion would be taken first, and then if needed, the vote would be on the second nomination.
Thank you. Any other nominees? All in favor of Josh Flynn continuing being president?
I think we'd have discussion, wouldn't we?
Discuss, please.
So I'd notice whoever is the board president, regardless of whether it's me or anybody else, they should try to unify each other and be a conduit to represent everybody, not just a segment of the Board of Trustees. And they should try to, take what everybody says into consideration and try to unify each other. What they shouldn't try to do is alienate and push, certain agendas. They should be transparent and not untransparent. So whoever it is, whether it's me, whether it's anybody else on the board, and I just hope whoever it is tries to unify each other and not engage in infighting and try to be above infighting. I think Lewis Evans did a very good job at that.
Minds clear?
Specifically, and I think one of the things, and I guess it's on public record, I did also watch the Senate hearing, and I was a little bit disappointed. With regards to the board president, even though going in his individual capacity, when you go and mention that you're the board president, you become the board president. You don't really take off the title, and I think the whole conversation became about being, labeled you as the president, given the point of view of the board almost, even though it was unofficial. Specifically, though, and one of the things that was clear and that kept being repeated by Josh was that I am still figuring this stuff out. And I think that, which makes sense because we all just got elected in January. So, I mean, we just started in January. So I think that's my bigger concern, is that there is a figuring stuff out, and this is why I would not throw my hat in this specific or any, I don't know, I don't think Richard is interested either, because we are figuring this stuff out. So I think that I would prefer having a more seasoned member of the board to represent the board in that regards. I think that I do think that we need to, and specifically, I think that when we are, with regards to representing the board as well, representing the department and the board, it is a matter that I think we all should be supportive of the initiatives, and I think that has become to question. So I think that, I have nothing against, I don't have anything against you personally. I just think that we should have a more seasoned member of the board serve as president.
Any other discussion? Moving on with the vote. All those having Josh Flynn continue as board president, please raise your hand. Do we need to continue?
Yeah, you need to ask for those against
We just had 4.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of Eric Dick?
No.
Oh, I thought you said, okay. Okay. All those opposed? Now we don't need to go to the next one? Okay.
It's done.
Josh, I move to make Don Sumners vice president of the board.
And I second that.
Are there any other names for vice president? Hearing none. All in favor of Don Sumner?
Don't we get to discuss?
Or please do. That's what I was asking.
No, you weren't asking. You asked if there was anyone else to be named. You didn't ask for discussion.
Okay.
But you're supposed to ask for discussion.
Please discuss.
Sure. So I'm just wondering, is everybody here, or is everybody living in their district? Because I heard something about George not living in the district.
I still have a residence here, and I will be resigning when I sell my home.
But are you currently living in?
I'm at both places.
But so you're in both, you're saying you're in both places?
Mm-hmm.
So that means you're legally in your district.
I have my voter registration here.
Excuse me. I've been informed that this is not on the agenda, so we need to move on.
I think it's something that's important to the public to know whether or not a voting member is actually in the district. If you aren't in the district, then I think there's some certain obligations you have. And if you actually, I just want to know whether you live and where you live. Because, my understanding is the house you listed, you put on there that you don't live there. And there's public record where you sign that says you don't live there. And that's fine if you don't live there. I
have talked with our attorney, and I'm giving my resignation to the board.
Well, I understand
there are holdover position policies in place. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
I think the general public needs to know whether you live in your district or not. That's all.
Sure, Mr. Dick, and if you would like to discuss that agenda item at another meeting, I would encourage you to follow the board policies, be local, to place an item on the agenda to discuss that specifically. But as the agenda sits right now, I don't see an item that would permit that discussion and deliberation among the trustees. So if that's an item that you want to discuss in the future, it can be added per policy, be local to a future meeting.
Well, we're discussing president and vice president. I think that's something important to know, is whether or not one of the trustees lives in their own district.
But Dr. Moore hasn't been nominated for vice president, and so I just personally do not see how, and I don't want you all to run afoul of the Open Meetings Act.
I understand that.
And so my advice would be that I don't see an agenda item currently that
Sure.
to discuss Dr. Moore's eligibility in terms of residency for his position.
I understand, but okay, so here's what I have to say. One, that, we still can pick someone, to be nominated as vice president, right? And maybe someone's reluctance in not naming George Moore as vice president or nominating him is being uncertain to where he resides. And whether or not he resides in the district, I think that kind of, that's something a trustee would take into consideration.
Okay.
Whether one, nominating him, whether two, voting for him.
And I think to the extent that the discussion is around this agenda item about eligibility in terms of for officer positions for president, or now we're on the topic of vice president, I agree with you.
So you do agree with me? Okay.
To the extent that it's germane to the discussion of the agenda item and the motion currently on the floor.
Yes, and I believe it is. So, again, I'm asking where George Moore currently resides, the
Okay,
address.
May I answer that? Why is that important? I'm not in an officer position, and I'm going to resign, and I'm in the process of moving all my stuff out of one house to another, and I am going to resign.
George, I have a question.
I don't know what those have to do. I'm pretty well open to the public of what my intent is. That's why I'm not going to be vice president, and I said I wouldn't run for vice president because I will be resigning, and I don't want you to have to go through this again.
Well, see, you didn't tell, and you never said to me, or I never heard you say you're not running for vice president because you don't live in the district. I've never heard any of this.
But he does live in the district.
Well,
We don't want to be, have a
I'm not-
walking quorum
yeah,
either.
And I'm not going to get in the technicality of in the district or out of the district. I know I am coming out of the district, so that's why I am going to resign.
But here's my question, though: is the paperwork where you put your house up for sale? You checked in the box where it says you don't live in the district. So if you're not living in the house
I
that you're
don't
at,
think it says live in the district, does it?
well, it says, do you live in that house?
Okay.
So
And
is there's
basically,
another house that you're living in that's in the district?
for less than 50% of the time, I'm not in that house.
I've got the attorney that should be able to answer this, make this point moot.
Just to provide a little bit of information, so as Dr. Moore said, he did consult me in terms of the eligibility requirement because his position is precinct-based, and so he must reside to continue his eligibility as a trustee in Harris County Commissioner Precinct 2. He did inform me that it was his intention to resign from the board once he no longer resided in Precinct 2. At the end of the day, it may be a moot point whether he resigns or whether he moves out of the district. It's cleaner, I will say, if you resign, because...
And I'm happy to do that now.
And why I say it's
can't vote,
maybe a
yeah.
moot point at the end of the day, because once an individual no longer resides there, then it would create a vacancy. So at the end of the day, regardless of whether it's an ineligibility requirement that creates the vacancy or a resignation that creates the vacancy, Dr. Moore would still hold over under the Texas Constitution provision of holdover until his successor is sworn in and replaces his seat. And so for purposes of voting today and at future meetings, he still continues in his full capacity as a trustee, even if he doesn't physically reside. There are a couple of...
He's a holdover.
Under the holdover provision, that's correct.
Okay,
and there are a
so-
couple of Attorney General opinions directly on point that address this specific issue of what if somebody moves out of their residence required residence.
So what I'm hearing is, and what I'm hearing from you, George, is that you're resigning and you're currently a holdover. Is that what?
He's not currently a holdover because two reasons. One, I have not received, I don't think Mr. Flynn, it wouldn't be me, but Mr. Flynn would receive a written resignation, or I don't have knowledge that Dr. Moore doesn't currently reside somewhere in precinct 2, which would create a vacancy.
And as soon as I have this weekend would be my final complete move out of my house, and I was going to give them a letter of resignation.
Okay, so, but what you're saying is that you're moving out of the house now?
There's stuff in there.
Okay, so you're saying that you currently are not sleeping there, you're sleeping somewhere else, and you're transitioning out?
Yes, that's
right?
correct.
That's currently your residence, Mr. Moore, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's officially my residence. I haven't changed my voter registration. As soon as I get that out, all that's going to occur.
But where you're sleeping at night is in a different precinct?
Generally, yes, and I have slept at that other house
I'm sure
during
you
this
have.
transition.
I know.
But that's why I said most of the time I'm at the other house.
Well,
Yeah.
and it sounds like all the time from here on out you're at the
Yeah,
other house, and you're
that's
just
true.
moving out of that house.
Yeah.
So it
But
sounds.
up to this point is what I'm saying, to where I've been.
Pictures on, HAR that
Yeah,
those
they
where
show it,
shows
they show it pretty well empty.
Yeah.
But I have stuff still in there, in closets and in garage, which you don't see.
No, that's why
Yeah.
what I was wondering is whether or
And I
not
have
you
been
had
able
another
to-
house there.
Yeah, pardon?
I was wondering whether you had another house in the district.
No, I do not.
Okay. So you don't have another house,
Nope.
you're moving out of that house?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any further discussion?
You had a question?
Call the question.
Oh, well, no, I have a.
You had a question
I have a
first.
question.
I'm happy to answer any.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Well, I'm not. It's not on this topic. I'm not, because one way or the other, I feel like one way or the other, even if he's not in the district, he will still holds over. So, as far as his vote, it doesn't really matter. My concern, Don actually has experience, and my only concern is that we seem, as a board, to be fractioning ideologically further and further apart. And I am a little concerned that I think, ideally, George probably somewhere in the middle of all of us. But since he's looking to resign, he would not be. So I'm a little concerned, Mr. Flynn and Trustee President Flynn and Trustee Sumners. I am a little concerned that we're gonna be at an impasse, and I would prefer a little more diversity of the ideologies of the president and vice president, if not more. I do appreciate the experience of Mr. Summers. I'm a little concerned, though. Things are going to happen. We're not going to much hear about it. I'm just a little concerned. I'm going to put that on the record. It don't matter. I'm just saying that is my concern a little bit. I don't know if y'all have any. But I am a little concerned. I will say that as a board member. I think we are moving further and further, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen when Mr. Moore resigns, but I am a little concerned that we are going to basically march to a tune of, a very singular point of view and not have a whole lot of diversity in thought.
I also have another comment. What I'd urge is if you're resigning, then why are you voting on president and vice president? Because you're resigning. Right. Why don't you abstain from that?
The reason that I did that was based upon Sarah saying that would be a holdover and would still be able to vote until y'all get a replacement for me, and that's why.
I understand that, but if you kind of don't have a dog in the hunt, why don't you just abstain?
Well, I think I do have a little bit of a dog in the hunt being still here.
Is there any more discussion?
Yeah.
Well,
It may be not necessary.
That might not necessary.
I withdraw.
All in favor of Don Sumners being the vice president, raise your hand. All opposed to Don Sumners being president? Vice president?
Yes.
So that would mean Mr. Moore continues to be vice president.
Well, we've got a nomination for Eric.
Or
No.
if there's more nominations.
Didn't get nominated for vice
You
president.
didn't?
Mm-mm.
Thought we got a motion in a second.
No, that was for president.
Oh, okay. So that's fine.
So it's time for executive session?
Huh?
I mean, if somebody else can make a motion if
Please.
they'd like under this agenda item, or
No.
not.
I'm-
Yeah.
Is it, is that the way it remains, that I'm vice president?
So the statute provides that the Board of County School Trustees, which is HCDE, shall be organized by electing at the regular meeting in May of each year. And so unless there's no other nominations, then that would be the case that you would continue in your role as vice president.
So what you're saying is that we only have to elect the president, we don't have to elect the
It's-
vice president? We can leave him as a holdover or not vote for him or whatever?
Well,
Am I getting?
He remains as vice president.
unless there's no other nominations for vice president, then Dr. Moore would remain as vice president of the board, unless and until the board considers the organization of officers at some future time.
Because we only have to elect a president at this time, we don't have to elect, right, we don't have to re-elect or anything like that. Isn't that what the statute says?
The statute says that a president shall be elected at the regular meeting in May, and the statute says that a vice president may be elected in the same manner as the president, but your local policy provides that the board shall elect a president and a vice president who shall be members of the board. And so while you must consider it in May under the statute, I believe that unless there's no other nominations, then Dr. Moore would just continue on as vice president.
Moving on. Okay, now we're going to executive session under Texas Government Code pursuant to any and all purposes permitted by section 551.001 through 551.084, including but not limited to the 551.071 and 551.078. Is that 3:10? 3:10.
Huh? Oh, I don't, oh, I don't know. I'm just gonna,
Construction business.
There's a lot of stuff on this desk. Was there anything that needs to stay here with this? I don't want it, I'm just want to make sure I don't take something back. I was talking to her. Well, if you notice, we passed almost everything 7-0.
CDE is coming back to order after executive session. Time is 4 o'clock. Thing that we're going to bring up is the contract with regard to Litter Mendesal, 7H. We have a motion?
Sorry, you already have a motion on the table.
We're going to take it off the table. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
I've got a question first.
Oh,
Who
okay.
made that motion and who seconded it?
Mr. Flynn made the motion and Mr. Cantu seconded the motion.
Yeah, I just want to, in the discussion, say that, that this contract had a cap on it, that the law firm exceeded that cap. and did not inform us in advance that they would exceed it, and I'm against paying it.
And just to be clear, I made the motion so that we can discuss it. Any additional discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the 7A, item 7A, please raise your hand. 7H. All opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm saying.
Next item on the agenda.
You have to say it failed.
It failed. 6-0 with one abstention. 061. Okay, the next item on the agenda is deliberate superintendent's recommendations to propose non-renewal of academic and behavioral school East principal. Do I have a motion?
Yes. I move to propose non-renewal of Howard Chapter 21 term contract for one or more reasons outlined in HCDE Policy DFBB Local as discussed in executive session. Determine that any requested hearing on the proposed non-renewal of Mr. Opal's term employment contract being conducted by an independent hearing examiner appointed by TEA, and direct the superintendent or his designee to not notify Mr. Opal of the board's decision and address in accordance with applicable law and policy.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions?
Got one down there.
Four.
The next item on the agenda is deliberate superintendent's recommendation to propose non-renewal of a teacher, Chapter 21 term employee. Do I have a motion?
Non-renewal of Joy Beckford's Chapter 21 term contract for one or more reasons outlined in HCDE Policy DFBB Local as discussed in executive session. Determine that any requested hearing on the proposed non-renewal of Ms. Beckford's term of employment contract be conducted by an independent hearing examiner appointed by TEA, and direct the superintendent or his designee to notify Ms. Beckford of the board's decision in accordance with applicable law and policy.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's 7-0. Next item, deliberate superintendent's recommendation to award non-Chapter 21 contracts for 2019 and 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second. Right here, C. 8C.
Okay, consider approval of the superintendent's recommendation to award non-Chapter 21 contracts for 2019-2018.
Sorry.
2019-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? 6 and 1? Yeah, 1. Next item on the agenda, make sure I'm right here, 9D, right? Consider and approve superintendent's recommendation to award Chapter 21 contracts for 2019 and 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Anybody? Second. Any discussion? Being none, move to a vote. All in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? Have informational items? We need to go over that? Okay. Dr. Moore would like to address the board and the public.
Board President, Mr. Flynn, and Superintendent Colbert, I would like to officially offer my resignation as the board member, Position 1, Precinct 2, due to moving out of the district. And please accept my letter as my official notification of resignation. And let me just say, I really enjoyed being here, but due to some health reasons and work requirements, it's just going to require me to leave the district. And for the record, I will be totally out of my house by Saturday, which I have people lined up to finish that for me. So,
congratulations. We really do appreciate the work that you have done on the board.
Well, thank you. If anybody wants to buy a house, there's one for sale.
Thank you. That being said, I'm open for an emotion.
Move to adjourn the meeting?
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Let's get out of here.